So Troy, I met you several years ago. It felt like a fluke, you know.
I know it's been a
Yeah.
while.
Our organization needed some space to meet, and I offered our space, and we
Hmm.
began to meet.
That's
But
true.
then you started to have an impact in my life, not just at that event that we were promoting at that time. And I want to thank you for the legacy talks, other legacy talks, but because of the legacy that you had of sowing so much in the community and to other people, this could become a real thing to help other people.
Thank
So if
you.
no one's ever said to you that you're essential, I'm saying it today that
Thank
you
you.
are essential.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about you. I do. It was something really. This is not my comfort zone. I like being behind the camera.
I
I
can't
do.
tell.
I can't stand it. I'm not. It just is just not my place. But when I kept putting it in other people's hands, it just didn't feel right. Or they weren't. Let me just say it like this: they weren't as committed as I would be. So I'm like, okay, I gotta
Because
bite the
they didn't
bullet.
see this impacting their
Yeah,
legacy.
yeah, and it's
And you
something's
did.
for you. I realize you got to do it yourself, and they don't have the urgency I feel. And there are things that I want to do and say, and people I want to meet and talk about things with because I love learning and the fact of because I look at you like you're a mentor. So
No.
I really, really, that's
I
how I
look
feel.
like at you like you're the boss.
Yeah, but see, I feel like that about you, and I always tell you that. And so I appreciate you taking the time out to do this because it's important that people see people that look like us that are talking about something that's important versus just you know clickbait all the time. I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to have information. If people choose not to listen or they choose not to implement it in their lives, they can't say they didn't know about it. So
That's right.
that's where
But
we
like
are.
Dion says, that's what friends are for.
The singing, I can't. I don't
So
sing.
they don't want me to sing, right?
So, Gail, what do you think legacy means?
I think legacy represents my intentions in my whole life and what I leave. And to have a legacy, something that lives past you in your children, maybe in our spouse and other family members, our
Mm-hmm.
community and friends, we absolutely have to start from day one in our lives and careers believing that I have to be intentional in how I sow, in how I love people, how I teach them, and what I learn and then give back. Because legacy is supposed to impact generations, not just be for a season until the money runs out, because it's so much more than finances.
I agree. I agree. So, you believe that in order to build this legacy or start or create, however you want to say, um, it starts with mindset.
It starts with mindset and shifting my mindset or our mindset or our listeners' mindset early on
Mm-hmm.
and having the mindset that I'm going to grow in my life, that I'm going to be smart about the decisions that I make,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to have impact.
Mm-hmm.
And looking beyond just my children, but my community that my children will be a part of.
So, how do I start? How do you start a legacy? Like, if for our listeners and in general, I mean, how do you start?
So, if we're not talking about finances, Troy, I think that starting a legacy has to do a little bit with what we're doing now, is having these honest dialogues about, A, how do you start? And that dialogue should start with each individual. What is it that I want my life to be?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to be known just as this great mom and cook? Do I want to be known as great in my profession?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want to be known as the person who has created impact and growth in everyone that I touch? I think it's giving of yourself and emptying yourself out,
Service of
service,
others. Yeah.
and love.
Yes.
And to be able to do that, the first thing we have to do is shift our mindset to the fact that I am going to be the very best that I can be here on earth. I'm getting the most experiences, the most education, and I'm giving the most so that I'm involved with people. Volunteering is a part of legacy because you meet people who are not like you that you've never encountered before, and y'all get to grow together, and then that's just another ceiling for what your legacy is going to be. So the first you have to have this mind shift that I'm changing. I'm going to do something different from every generation before me, and I am certainly going to leave something impactful that everyone will know that the people who they see that are benefiting from my impact, that I did that on purpose.
So I listening to you, I'm thinking that takes focus. You got to start with the focus. And so if you're all over the place, how do you quiet that and start to focus? What are some of the steps you think we should do? I know you're in the health and wellness space, so I know you're going to say food. I know you're going to say food. It's just food.
It's just
I know
food.
it's just food and everything, because me personally, I love bread and some of the bad stuff. It doesn't love me, but I love it. But I notice when I eat that way, I can't focus. I can't hardly think. I don't sleep well. So what do you think?
So when it comes to nutrition, I think people have to have a driver, something that drives them to better nutrition. It's a reason that, hey, I just want to be healthy. But for most of us, especially in the African American community, it's our history that we lost our parents early, or they died of diabetes or heart disease. And for me, what got me into the holistic wellness space was that not only was I ill and had to recover from a lot of diseases, but my father came from a family of 10, and his mom and dad died before I met them, both of cardiomyopathy and congestive heart failure. And out of those 10 siblings, there are 2 that are left, and my 8 that are deceased died of congestive heart failure and cardiomyopathy. And in 2009, when I was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy and congestive heart failure, my son was in elementary school. And I thought about the impact of my father dying before my son made 1.
That's true.
And then the impact of trying to teach my son about someone he doesn't have a memory of, only in pictures.
Yeah.
And I realized that my life had to change, and the foundation for that in all of our lives is fuel. So I don't get up and put leaded gas in my unleaded tank, because my manufacturer said, Gayle, don't do that.
Right.
This car runs better on unleaded and premium at that. And so we need to put a price on our lives, and the people that we love put a value on their life and what we can leave them, and start thinking nutritionally. And nutrition is everything that nourishes you. It can be more than just food. But before you can make better food choices, you have to make better choices about who you are and how you value this vehicle. And so there are things that we say, like, I can't eat better, I can't juice, I can't eat organic, I can't afford
It's a choice.
that.
It's
These
a
are
choice.
choices.
It's a choice.
That means if I can't afford something that's going to impact my life and the next generation, I need to do something better here where I can afford that. Because I heard a little boy, his aunt worked for me, and one day he wanted something, and he said, "Hey, Marcy, can we afford it, Dad?" And so that became like the joke. Can we afford it, Dad? And so the question is, can we afford it not to take care of ourselves so that we can teach others how to take care of themselves?
So you're saying we don't have to leave a legacy of sickness, because a lot of the conversations I've had, even in my own family, where it's like, well, mama was sick with heart disease, daddy was sick or whatever, grandmother was sick, so I'm going to have it. So I'm just going to live my life to the fullest, because I already know that's my path as well. So you're saying that you don't have to leave a legacy of sickness. You can change that.
You don't, because
Okay.
first we always say it's just food.
Right.
Meaning, if you go back to Genesis 1:29 and you believe that version of creation and how God fed those he created, Adam and Eve, he talked about seeds and fruits and nuts and vegetables and grains and legumes. So those items are just food. But we have the choice to make them and cook them, prepare them in such a way that they nourish us. But most importantly, about that just being food, every time I hug you, that's nutrition. Every time I affirm you, that's nutrition. Every time I do better by myself, I learn a different skill set, I share that, that's nutrition. And in our families, we don't look at the way we love and care as being that nutrition that's also going to leave a legacy.
That's right. We don't.
So I could have a legacy of cardiomyopathy that I pass on to my son, except it's just food. That concept helped me to overcome congestive heart failure, cardiomyopathy, and even though I carry the gene for celiac disease, I don't express it. And even though I carry the gene for sickle cell and was like always having a sickle cell crisis, I don't express that. But one of the reasons why I don't is because I was concerned about my son's legacy and that I had to do better. So I like that we have LA Legacy Talks and that we get to explore various forms of legacy.
Right. Because most people just think money, and
Right.
and I love when people always like, well, I'm leaving a legacy. What about living? I would like to talk about living.
So we have living wills.
Right.
So people say, hey, I'm leaving a living will. It's a directive.
Right.
So we are living the life that we want the legacy to spring forth from. And our children watch us, and the value that we bring and every seed that we sow has impact. But if we don't change our mindset about who we are, whose we are, and why we're here, we'll never have the desire to do better around food. So one of the biggest challenges that I have with my clients at Laughter in Your Belly Wellness, my holistic wellness practice, is that the minute they see food changes, they say, I can't do that. And well, what's driving you not to do that? Not leave a legacy?
I just think we don't like to let go of the food. I think the food,
taste.
the taste of it. My daughter loves fried chicken. I ate a lot of fried chicken when I was pregnant. So I figured I'm just like, maybe I just pass that on to her because I love fried chicken, red beans, and rice. That's just like being in Louisiana. That's what we eat. I mean, that's
a comfort food.
It's a comfort food, but it's tied to our heritage, I think. I think it just has a lot of strings. And I feel like when people start to let go of that, they feel like they're letting go of, that was my grandmother's recipe or my mom's recipe or whatever. And I feel like there's just a lot of emotion, maybe I should say, that's attached to that. But I also wanted to just briefly touch on the foods that we eat, the focus, how it affects our focus on making these daily decisions in life, business and life, but especially just in our everyday life. Let's just start there with everyday life. Making those choices to eat these type of foods that are, very rich, the butters and all the things we love, the sweets and the double layer cakes and just all this. How does that affect us though? Mentally, how does that affect us?
So our brains need oxygen. And our brains need good blood flow and good clean blood. And so if we know that the lifeblood of man is the blood, right? Then I should be always concerned about what's going into my bloodstream. So everybody knows that Cheetos ain't getting you nowhere. But they taste incredible, and they leave your hands like.
I don't like Cheetos. I like Doritos though. Spicy Doritos, really spicy Doritos. I love.
They're not getting us to this legacy that we want to leave, and it becomes, why am I putting this fuel in my car?
But that's all we see.
It's what we see. But another thing that I see too is this: when I buy a luxury car, My manufacturer tells me how to take care of it and even says, bring it back here for your oil changes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go to 5-minute oil change
Mm-hmm.
because, 5-minute oil change can't take care of my car, right? That I invested in.
Mm-hmm.
But this car belongs to somebody.
That's true.
So this car isn't just for our creator, but it's also for us,
Mm-hmm.
and then for our passengers who
Mm-hmm.
take part in our legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I thought about just me personally, and I think people can do this, we can do this if we choose to do this and have this mindset, is when I think about what I want to leave, it starts first with how I want to leave it. So if I have a huge estate and I have to expend that estate on sick care, meaning it's not a growing investment, or I can't take care of the property, the real property that I'm leaving you because I made the wrong investment in me, then am I really leaving you a legacy that will flourish and bring you joy and an opportunity to be more than even my generation was? Or am I leaving you a burden? A house that is torn down, a finances that are torn down? Am I having to live off of my life insurance policy now and taking the cash value out of it because I didn't value me? A lot of thought has to go into every decision we make about food. And I'm not suggesting that people need a perfect diet. I think they need a diet that is did I eat today? Diet. Like, first let's decide that. And what quality of food that I choose. I don't think we need to have these major rules about food but respect the foods that bring life, because either food brings life or it brings death. So when someone has diabetes and they get an amputation, the family will say, the doctor said mama can't eat this. But before the amputation, the doctor was saying that mama shouldn't eat fried chicken every day, hog cracklings, and the rest. But then we would say, but mama wants that. She likes that. So if mama wants that and she likes it, and now she's had an amputation, and we got notes up telling everybody don't bring that, that means there was a shift. Is that we began to see mama won't be here long if we continue. And Troy, we have to be here long to have impact in our children's lives.
That's true.
We don't want to leave them at 20. They don't know nothing.
That's true. That's very true and stuff.
We don't want to be gone at 30. We're going to miss our grandchildren's life.
That's true. So the blueprint, as I said earlier, what you're saying is it starts with us. It definitely starts with the decisions we're making about food as well as everything else, but it really does start with what you're putting inside of your body, because that does affect the mind and how we react to everything. That's powerful. Okay, well, I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. I thank you for the knowledge, because I'm ever evolving. I love my food. I'm working on it. She's working on me, y'all. She's working on me. That's another story. But again, I want to thank you for joining us for LA Legacy Talks. I am your host, Troy Lee, and my co-host,
Gayle Young.
And we will see you next time. And think about it. What does legacy mean to you?